Serwotka. Thanks very much, Gordon. And can I first of all thank everybody for this fantastic turnout. And can I ask everybody to make a big loud shout of appreciation for Gordon, all our reps, the TUC and all the organisers of today's fantastic march. So I want to talk about two things. One is the closure of the tax office, George Stephenson House, the job losses on Teesside from the HMRC, and I also want to talk about public sector pay. But can I say first of all, I'm really delighted to be in Stockton. I mean, this part of the world reminds me very much of South Wales, where I was brought up, a sense of community. Public sector jobs are really important to the local economy, and there's a strong union tradition and sense of solidarity. And I started work in South Wales when I was 16, and I started in a local benefit office in the civil service. You either got into the public sector or you went down to coal mines where I lived. And when I was 16, my mother sent me off to my first day at work, and she said to me, "I'm so proud of you, son, you got into the civil service, because you're going to have a well-paid job, a fantastic pension, you'll have a job for life, and everybody will admire what you do for them on their behalf." Now, finding out my mother lied 4 times in one sentence when I was 16 is a cross I've bared ever since. But I tell you what, there is a bit of a story there, you know. One, which is people misunderstand, I think, the importance of the civil service. And secondly, how people don't really value the work that we do, but the importance of civil service jobs to the local community. Because the tax office jobs we're going to lose in Stockton will have a devastating effect, not just on our members and on their families, but on the community itself. And let's start with the community. The 650 jobs we're going to lose on Teesside, just in this part of the country, we estimate bring £1.7 million a year into the local economy, because our members spend the money they earn in local shops and in local businesses. Now, Teesside has twice the national rate of unemployment. It has already lost thousands of jobs recently in this community, skilled jobs. So for the government to lose public sector jobs in this community is an absolute scandal. And every Tory who votes for it should hang their head in shame, and we should hound them down for the next few years while they cling on to power if they last that long. Because these jobs will be hard to get back. So we have to say we're going to defend them with all our might in a local campaign to defend the jobs here in Stockton and in Middlesbrough and all of the public sector jobs that are under threat. Let me tell you something about these tax jobs. Nobody appreciates people who work in tax offices. But you know, they look over the national minimum wage. One of the vital things done by a Labour government to bring some dignity to people in work. It's not high enough, but it's a start. It's policed by PCS members. And those members collect the tax. And that is the tax that funds the education service, the transport, the health service that keeps this country going. And the Tories have cut the tax department from 100,000 jobs, 108,000, to 58,000 jobs. And they want to cut it by another 8,000. Now just imagine, you are halving the staff in tax offices when we have a tax gap that is actually £120 billion. Now that is tax that is avoided, evaded and not collected. Now why is it the government halves the staff in tax offices when the rich are getting away without paying their tax, yet it puts more staff into policing benefit fraud, chasing down some of the poorest people in this country? Now let me tell you this, benefit fraud is about pennies and pounds. Tax evasion is about millions and billions of pounds, and it tells us everything about the priority of the government. So our members here, they do a brilliant job. They spend their money in Stockton, they support local businesses, they chase down the tax dodgers, and we are determined to say this: we are not going quietly, we are not letting these jobs go, we are not going to let mothers, people with caring responsibilities, add 3 or 4 hours on their working day to move to Newcastle. We are going to fight to keep the jobs in Teesside, and we want everybody to support us in the months and years ahead. And I'm proud, you know, to be General Secretary of a union where the part of the public sector we are often overlooked. Let me tell you, the PCS members, they pay the benefits, they collect the tax, they keep the roads safe, They look after people flying at the airports and the ports. They police our justice system. They look after people's national iconic issues like things in galleries and museums. Our members play a vital part, and yet the government treats their own workforce with absolute contempt. Claire said earlier that we've had a 7-year pay freeze. That's right. If you work in a civil service, you've actually had a 10-year freeze in your living standards. 10 consecutive years where you have had less money at the end of the year than you had when you started it. What a disgraceful way to treat people who look after people in this country. And we've got to say that we are going to do something to stop it. Let me just tell you this story. This time last year I was in hospital. I had a heart transplant at the end of last year. 3 life-saving operations literally allow me to be here today. Are those public sector workers, not just the nurses and the doctors, but the cleaners who clean the ward, the people who feed you, the healthcare assistants who bathe you when you are unconscious and you are recovering, the people who take you from one ward to another, the people who do the x-rays, the physios, every single one of those people in our health service, they all deserve a pay rise, and let's make a massive cheer for our health service. But so do our teachers and our firefighters and our council workers and everybody in our local government and public service. There should be no divide and rule. Now, I had the pleasure, if you can call it that, of meeting the Chancellor of the Exchequer on Tuesday. I went with the leaders of the public sector unions to talk to him about public sector pay. Now, let me say this, I'm a polite boy, but this man makes me sick to the pit of my stomach. Because not only does he say we're overpaid, he actually said we haven't lost any money, our wages are better than the private sector, our pensions are better than the private sector, and he rejects any notion that we need to catch up for the money we've lost. Well, as you've already heard, PCS members are £3,500 worse off today than they were in 2010. We will be 20% worse off if the Tory government keep this pay restraint in place for the next 3 years, which is what they've promised us. Now, that is a scandal. But Philip Hammond is a complacent Tory millionaire. He doesn't depend on the services that we have to depend on. He can pay for the services he needs. He doesn't care about Stockton. He doesn't care about South Wales. He doesn't care about the working men and women who keep this country running. So we've got to send him a message, haven't we? We've got to say we're going to make you care. And by the way, if you ain't going to do the decent thing, step aside and let's have Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister. Because I tell you what, Jeremy Corbyn has told me personally, and all the union leaders, Labour will scrap the pay cap, they will put money into our public sector, and let me tell you this if you work in HMRC. John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, said that not only will they stop the office closures, they will put thousands of jobs back into HMRC to chase down the tax dodgers. So our message has to be to Theresa May and Philip Hammond is, look, if you're not up to the task, and frankly you're clearly not, if you're not going to do the right thing, step aside. But if you're going to cling to power, if you're going to tell us there's no money for civil servants and teachers and nurses, but there's £1 billion for your grubby deal with the DUP so that you can cling to power, then we're going to give you a little shove. We're going to help to move you on your way. And how are we going to do that? Well, here is PCS's suggestion. We say this, the government is weak, but they currently have a slim majority of Parliament because they've got the DUP. So we need to now make their job as difficult as we can. And that means working with politicians like the great MPs who've stood with us today, but saying if millions of people in the country, in the North East, in South Wales, in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, say we've had enough, then we can make the government's job impossible. And how do we do it? We say simply this. We are not accepting a day more of your pay freeze. We are not accepting a day more of being taken for granted. We are going to stand together, 3 million of us in the public sector unions, and we're going to follow the lead of those brilliant members in the Communication Workers Union who broke the Tory union laws and got an 80% turnout and an 80-odd% yes vote to strike to defend their pensions and their pay. And what was the government's response? Royal Mail rushed into court to declare that ballot unlawful. Well, I hope we all send a massive solidarity message from here to our postal workers. You deserve more money, you deserve job security and decent pensions, and we are with you and we support you every step of the way in your struggle. But I want to finish with this. I've never been nervous before, but the idea of a rocket going off behind me, I have to say, is a little bit unnerving. The PCS is proud to say that we are taking the lead on the question of public sector pay, because if you're a PCS member, you will have had a ballot paper in the post in the last few days asking you, are you prepared to vote to demand the government removes the pay cap? And if they refuse to do it, are you prepared to take industrial action? Now, this is a consultative ballot, and we're doing this to find out what the mood of our members is and to see whether we can break the Tory anti-union laws. So if you are a PCS member, you can go online, you can pick up the phone, or you can vote by post. But I want to see Philip Hammond, before he delivers the budget on the 22nd of November, knowing that I can look him in the eye, and we will have smashed the 50% turnout. We will have a massive yes, yes vote, so that when he delivers his budget, he's got a straightforward choice. Put money into the public sector to give us a decent pay rise, or our members are saying we are prepared to fight you, and that our union will go to every other public sector union at the turn of the year and say, let's talk together to have more of these ballots so that we can all say to them, as we did in 2011, do you want 2 million public sector workers marching together and striking together for fair pay, or are you going to put your hand in your pockets? And a yes, yes vote from PCS members now sends the government a message, and it sends a signal to all trade unionists. But if the CWU can do it, and if PCS can do it, we can all march together and take action together to get decent pay. And therefore, we have it now in our own hands. Today's Great March shows them in Stockton and in Middlesbrough. We are not letting them close these offices. And let me tell you that our campaign is not just about these offices, it will be about them throughout the country. You've got colleagues here in Sheffield who have had 5 weeks on strike already to keep their job centre open in the poorest part of Sheffield, to give services to the sick and the disabled and the unemployed. Management have said they're now going to bring the office closure forward, so from Monday they have started an indefinite strike to demand that their job centre is open. I hope you can send them a message of support, because they're not fighting for themselves, they're fighting for the public and the city that they work in. And if we can do that in Sheffield, we can do that here, we can do that in Cornwall, we can do that in South Wales and North Wales and everywhere else. Because there's one thing I was taught, when I was young. My father said it to me when I was very young. He said, son, if you don't ever fight for anything in life, then you know what, he said, fighting can't guarantee you'll win. But if you don't fight, you guarantee that you will have lost. And PCS's message, it is always best to stand up and give it our best shot. Because if a tax office closes, it won't reopen. If the jobs go, they won't come back. If the pay is cut for a further year, it is harder to get it back. But if we say to ourselves this is not Margaret Thatcher with a majority of 180. This is Theresa May with no majority. A shabby government doing deals with Northern Ireland people who don't even believe in equality for their own citizens, let alone equality for us living here. They are weak, and we can beat them. And for once, we've got a Labour opposition that when we take to the streets or vote for action, they won't look at their shoes and be embarrassed. Jeremy Corbyn will support us from the dispatch box. And imagine how that'll make us feel. We are taking action to defend our jobs and our pay packets, and the Leader of the Opposition is supporting us from Parliament. And I'll tell you what that means. It means the 70% of people in the opinion polls who are already saying support their public sector workers and believe we will need more of a pay rise will become 75 and 80%. And Theresa May's got a choice then, hasn't she? Either pay us the money that is due, keep the offices open that towns like this rely on, or we will force her to give us what we need and hopefully also call a general election so that the public of this country can vote for something better. So my finishing message to everybody is this. Don't have your heads down, don't despair. Do not think it is inevitable. George Stephenson House is not inevitably going to close. We can campaign along with others to keep it open. The people of Stockton can benefit by keeping open. Our members and their families can benefit, and the local economy can benefit. And think what we'll feel like if that happens. If that office stays open and your children and your grandchildren, like I did when I left school, have the chance of a public sector job rather than having a 0 hours, low paid, insecure job for the rest of their lives. Imagine how we'll feel if we keep that office open. But also imagine this, and this is my last word, how we will feel if we force them to do the right thing on public sector pay. Because if we do that, it will give us strength and confidence that we can win on other things. We can have a fire service where the heroes and heroines of the FBU are not only paid properly, but get more staff to help keep us safe. A health service that isn't privatised, where we value all the workers. Teachers and teaching assistants are not worried and shouldn't be forced to work 60 hours a week teaching our kids, where we have smaller class sizes, job security and rewarded staff in education. And a civil service that can pay people a decent rate of benefit, chase down the tax dodgers and help keep our communities ones to be proud of. You know, Martin Luther King once says he had a dream. Well, I don't think that has to be a dream, that can be a reality. And it is in our own hands. But their answer will be to demoralise us, to make us think there's no hope, that your office will shut and your pay will remain low. And what has always meant the trade union movement has stuck together and has aimed high is because we have the solidarity of one another. We have unison members here today with PCS and the FBU and the GMB and the CWU. A solidarity that unites us, where we know we care about what we do. We know we deserve more. We care about the peoples we serve. Unlike these Tories, who if they ever come to Stockton, will come to tell you how well everyone's doing while they escape through the back door and cut jobs and don't give a hoot about this community. Well, we care about Stockton, and we care about Aberdare, Newcastle, Scotland and the northwest of England. We care because it is our people who will live here, who will bring our children up here and who care about this place for years to come. So thanks for coming today. Make sure you vote yes, yes if you're in PCS. Let's stand together for fair pay, for local jobs in Stockton, keep the tax office open, solidarity and have a great day. Thanks for coming.
Right, thanks Mark, and you timed it perfectly, didn't you? The plinth is about to rise and your rocket will be rising in the air. I'd just like to finish off by saying thank you again to everybody who's turned up, to all the MPs, to the General Secretary, PCS, to all the other speakers from the different unions around there, but most of all to everybody who's standing out there in front now. As Mark said, if we all fight together, we can save the jobs that are going to be cut in Teesside, and wherever any jobs are going to be cut, whether it's PCS jobs, whether it's jobs in a hospital, whether it's jobs in a school, we should all be together, coming onto a platform like this and saying enough is enough on Teesside. We've had enough job cuts, we don't want any more. So once again, thank you very much, and watch the rocket go up there as a final thing. Thank you.